Yeah.
282 million. That's what I'm talking about, chat. Hey guys, welcome to my build video. It's just me here, coming at you with a new melee build. It's called PlagueBlade. The reason I've named it PlagueBlade is because it is a Blightcaller stabbo build. We're focusing melee damage and ability damage, but first, before I really get into the details of the skill trees and all that good stuff, I want to show you how to use the build, how to get the most damage out of it. So we're gonna test on our community punching bag here, Parasite. And so first, what you want to do is you want your shield to break. He didn't break my shield. Okay, now he did. So what I did, I shot him with my gun a little bit. I activated my Buffmaster. Then I walked up and hit him. I then had the lightning from the Plague Storm struck him after I hit him. And so what happened there was I walked up. I hit him for 1,015 million. That's how much I hit him melee damage. He got struck by lightning from the Plague Storm for 41 million. Alright guys, now that I've showed you how to use the build, I'll go ahead and show you the items that I have and the skills that we're expecting to make this build do so much damage. To start off, we're running the live wire. Obviously, the live wire gives you the increased melee damage when you're holding it, so you're always going to want to be holding it when you melee the enemy. We're using the Twisted Delusion because whenever I fight bosses, I like to shoot them with the Twisted Delusion first, and then I melee them. I will say that we are spec'd into Bogged Down, which will soak enemies just from us getting non-status effect poison damage. It will soak enemies, and so this is more or less used for mobbing. This is to help during mobbing, not really during bossing. During bossing, you'll want to use the Twisted Delusion so that way you can apply the soaked effect, and then you can do big damage from there. Now, I worked on this build a lot, and I've noticed that the Spell Blade, if you use a Spell Blade with this build, and you run this paradigm, it's any paradigm. This paradigm is not even optimized for my build in any way other than the melee damage and the all damage dealt. As you see, it's a Berserker Spore Warden. Well, my build here is a Stabomancer Blightcaller. So, really, skill-wise, I don't get any of these skills. None of these skills are helping me. All of the kills in the beginning of this video y'all saw, I was using this class mod, or this body armor. So, realistically, if you had a paradigm, it has to say ability damage and spell damage are increased by your melee. If you have a paradigm that's Blightcaller Stabo, that says that's what you're going to be looking for. That's the god roll for this build. I'm running a Cursed Wit because I want that 100% damage dealt to nearby enemies. That's why you've seen me having my shield broken. I was breaking my shield every time in the boss fights. This is really your own opinion. I'm running the Urge because it seems like that the Plague Storm takes a really, really long time to cool down. And so what I do is I go ahead and activate my Buff Monsters sometimes just to give it faster cooldown time is all. You could use something else. You could use a Sacrificial Skeep. Really all you're looking for is all damage dealt. That's what I always want on a necklace because that's one of the strongest passives you can get. Obviously, if I had something like Frost Damage Blightcaller, that would be amazing, but this is Frost Berserker. I'm getting the Frost increase, but it's still just, I'm using it just because of the all damage dealt. This is the Buffmeister I'm using. This is the Buffmeister you want to use when you use the Spellblade. So the reason I say that is because the Spellblade says melee attacks deal spell damage instead of melee damage. That's a straight up lie. I don't know if they meant for this to happen or what, but that is not true. Melee damage deals spell damage and melee damage. That's what the Spellblade does. It makes all of your spell damage and all of your melee damage combined together, and then you hit with that damage. It's not just one. It doesn't just change it to spell. So running a Buffmeister with Zap and Bonk is both increases to my Spellblade. Both of them are increases to my melee swing. Okay. Now you can run a Wailing Banshee, preferably Cryo. You always want to run Cryo. You can run a Wailing Banshee here. If you run the Wailing Banshee, you're going to want to change your Buffmeister to a Poison Ka-Chow Bonk. Ka-Chow Bonk is going to give you 80% ability damage increase and 80% ability crit chance is what Ka-Chow does. And then Bonk is 80% melee damage increase. So if you swap to the Wailing Banshee, which is still just as strong, that's what I was using for the 286 million, I think it was, that I hit. I was using this Wailing Banshee and this Buffmeister. But all the other hits, which I prefer now because it seems to hit stronger, I really enjoy the Spellblade and the Zap Bonk Cryo Buffmeister. Now the skills are pretty straightforward. There's not really much in here. You could kind of call this a status effect melee build. We've got 5 out of 5 into status effect chance and duration. Same thing over here, 5 out of 5 status effect. I'm just wanting to apply status. So what you want to do with this build is you want to apply a status effect to the enemy, and then you melee them. So like during mobbing, you'll want to be shooting your live wire before you melee the enemy. You'll get more damage, obviously, because when you apply that status effect, then Exploit Their Weakness comes in. Whenever the Fate Maker applies a status effect to an enemy, the affected enemy takes increased damage. This is a very, very, very strong damage multiplier in the damage formula. This is something you will always want in your build if you're running status effect. I'm running haste because of the melee attack speed. I want to be able to swing as fast as possible. I'm running follow up because we're shooting our live wire beforehand and then we're meleeing. So any amount of damage there increases our melee attacks, which is nice. Now, this was a recent addition to the build. I added this in. When the Fate Maker deals melee damage, his fire rate and spell damage are increased. The reason I added 3 out of 3 into this was because I'm using a Spellblade now. So now when I walk up and hit someone and I deal melee damage, I get 24% spell damage increase, which then converts into my next melee hit through my Spellblade. So it's like the longer you hit them, the stronger you hit. But what I've noticed is you don't have to hit them more than 2 or 3 times. So really, I mean, really, this would be like for raid bosses. I've killed raid bosses in the beginning without using the ability. I didn't use Plague Storm. I wanted to show off how much actual damage I was doing with the Spellblade, so I didn't use Plague Storm on one of the raid bosses. Next, we're running Shadow Step. You want that critical hit. The next melee attack is a guaranteed crit hit. That's a kill skill. That's just, you just want that because critting is just amazing in this game. Also, we're running this. Critical hits grant increased damage dealt. So that means every time you kill somebody and then walk up and melee someone else, you crit them, you then get this. And melee crits grant additional stacks. So it's just more damage. It's just more damage. 3 out of 3 into Contagion because we're running status effect like crazy. The Contagion will proc and spread really solid. I hit LeChance one time and I looked over to his left and there was 3 enemies over there each that got hit with 1 million. So Contagion is a very nice addition to this. And obviously you're going to want to run Alchemical Agent. Alchemical Agent is just the best thing for this build. This is a status effect melee build. Now, if you want me to be totally honest, I had no idea where to put this point. I put it in the Ethereal Blade, or I mean Executioner's blade, but really I've never even seen it. I don't even know what it does that much. So like you could put that point anywhere you want. You can put it over here if you want. You can put it over here. Really, that's doing nothing. I just put that there because it makes it look cooler. I have 1 out of 5 into Ghost in the Shell. Now, the reason I did this was because I was trying to figure out a way to get down the tree a little bit further, just one skill. And this does ability damage. Since we're running a paradigm that buffs ability damage, and we're buffing ability damage pretty solid with that paradigm, Ghost in the Shell is just a nice, like, cheese damage that you get out of shooting your live wire. So like when you're mobbing and you shoot some enemy with your live wire and a Ghost in the Shell comes out, sometimes that Ghost in the Shell will kill that enemy. I've had him one shot. I mean, the ability damage on Blightcaller is amazing. We're putting 5 out of 5 into poison damage. I only did this to get down the tree. If you want me to be totally honest, it helps more if you're running the Poison Buffmaster and the Banshee, because right now we're literally doing no poison damage. I mean, we do. The Plague Storm does poison damage, but other than that, I just used it to get down the tree. And like I said earlier, we're using Bog Down so we can get that soaked effect on enemies while we're mobbing. Now, I went Worst Curse because it says whenever the Fate Maker applies a dark magic status effect, his spell damage and ability damage are increased for a duration. Now, at first I thought that this wouldn't be good for this build because I'm not applying dark magic in any way. But what I started learning was that when you cast Plague Storm, it says that the elemental bolts are random elemental damage types, but I've noticed that it's the same ones in sequence. So the first lightning bolt that comes out of the Plague Storm is dark magic damage, and it immediately applies that to the enemy. So that's why I'm casting Plague Storm first, because it's applying dark magic off the first lightning strike. Then I shoot, activate my Buffmaster, melee. So I'm getting the spell damage and ability damage increase off of the ability. So the Plague Storm itself is giving me this. And all this is a little bit more extra damage out of our Spellblade. It's all that is. Same thing here. Frost. This is just all random stuff that could help. If I had a Frost Spellblade, that's what I would really need for this build, but I don't have one. So the lightning one's okay for now because it still hits hard. But Frost status effect, increased melee and crit hit chance. Frost will come out sometimes when you're shooting or when you activate your Plague Storm. So, I mean, that's just a melee damage increase that you can't really pass up. And over here in my hero stats, I'm running 40 out of 40 into Strength. That's a given. Crit damage is amazing. You always want max crit damage. I went max attunement because it seems like Plague Storm takes a very, very, very long time to cool down. So I wanted to max it out. And then I went ahead and had to give myself a little bit of health because this character has the negative 7.5%. I don't like that. So I gave him a little bit of health, and then I went ahead and put the rest into crit chance. The reason I didn't go all the way into crit chance is because this is a percentage of crit. This is a percentage crit. So like, see how it says there 30% crit chance? That is not a base 30%. Okay. I don't know the exact numbers. You'll have to go look at you can go look at some other people's videos and listen to them and stuff. But I do know this, that is a very small percent. So like, even if you max that out and it said 46% crit chance increase, it's actually like 46% of 2%. So like, if you go right here to your critical hit chance and look at it, as you see, it says melee attack critical hit chance, 31.3. That's because of my Spellblade, which is actually a solid amount. That means 1/3 of the time I'll probably crit with my Spellblade. If I was to increase dexterity to 40%, that would not increase to 40% right there. What it would do is it would increase about a 0.7. So that's why dexterity is actually probably the worst hero stat you could ever spec into. I just use it as a filler because there's no reason for spell cooldown. I already have enough status effect. I needed some health. I gave myself health. We was good there. So crit chance, might as well. And just to show off my myth rank, it's not nothing amazing. I recently swapped from PS4 to PS5, so I didn't get to bring my myth rank with me. So I'm only rocking 187. I don't have any melee increases other than melee swing speed and melee crit damage. Other than that, it's just all basic stuff. But yeah, guys, that's the video. Thank you so much. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and comment if you have any questions.